Hi guys, it's Mrs. Sanford. Remember me? Sorry I haven't been there in a while, but I've been with the 8th graders. So, I wanted to give you guys the notes today. So if you don't have those in front of you, make sure you go get them right now. You should have the notes because we do need to go through 5.7a. So it's about parallel and perpendicular lines. It's one of our last notes of this unit. And we're going to go over this again on Monday, but I just wanted to make sure you guys had the notes and you were good to go. So follow along with me as I go. You should be writing exactly what I'm writing. I'm going to check them on Mondays to make sure everyone was following along. But first thing we want to do is see what the heck parallel and perpendicular lines are. So I'm going to start with this line right here. And I'm going to graph this on the line. So do this with me. Now you should notice that this is in slope-intercept form. So this is the B and this is the M. So we're going to go to our line and we're going to start at the B, and I'm going to zoom in here so that way you can see it better. So I'm going to go up 5, put my point there, and my slope, as you can see, was a -2. Now there's no run, so this is the rise over run, so -2 over 1. So I'm going to go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. Oops. I tell you, this new technology that I'm trying is a little crazy, so bear with me. Alright, so there's my points. That's my first line, and I'm going to draw a nice straight line all the way through them. Hopefully it's nice and straight. And there we go. Now you guys should go all the way through, but my technology's being weird, so we're going to go with that. Alright, so now we got to look at the second one, and that's this line. So this one looks a little funky, and that's just because it's missing a B. Now if there's nothing there, I'm just going to write +0 because there's nothing there. So 0 is going to be my B, so I'm going to start at 0 right here. And then you might notice that the second line has the exact same slope. So again, we're going to go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. So now I'm going to draw a nice straight line all the way through them. Please be doing this with me, guys. And there's my line. Alright, third and final line. Let's take a look at it. Y equals -2x minus 3. So this time I'm going to start at -3. Let me zoom in again. So I'm going to go down 3, and that's going to be my starting point. And my slope is exactly the same, so down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. I'm going to go the opposite way, up 2, and over 1. Alright, let's graph our line. Looks like this. Oops. Sorry guys, it's a little off there, but you get the gist. Alright, so take a peek at your lines. Mine are a little crazy. Hopefully you're much neater than mine. But hopefully what you should be seeing is that we have 3 lines there that are parallel, essentially. So we're going to write parallel here. And how would you describe this line? So write parallel. These are parallel lines. Sorry, it looks like a 3rd grader's writing this. Ugh. Parallel lines. And what do we know about parallel lines? Hopefully you know that they will never intersect. Never run into each other. Alright, so now that we see what parallel lines are, what makes parallel lines parallel lines? What did you notice that was the same in every single thing here? You should notice that they all have the exact same slope. So if they all have the exact same slope, that's what's going to make them parallel. So let's write here, they have the same slopes. I don't know why I keep putting exclamation points, but we'll see. So let's make a statement here, so that way whenever you see a parallel line, you'll know what the heck to do. So let's do this in red because it's kind of important. So let's draw, I like to do this for parallel so I don't have to write it out. Oh, that was terrible. But two parallel lines. So parallel lines have the same slope. Always, always, always. So that's going to make your life easier. All right, let's scroll down here a little bit. And let's graph these lines. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for you since we just did the ones above. So we have two lines here, so we're going to graph those. So let's graph this one first. Let's do it in a different color. Let's do it in blue this time. Okay, so we've got y equals mx plus b. Here's my m, and here's my b. So I'm going to start with graphing this, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to start at 1 because that was my b, and I'm going to go up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. Alright, then I'm going to graph my line. I don't know why it changes colors on me. Sorry about that. Alright, so there's my first line. Now I'm going to go zoom out here and let's look at this line. So here's my m and here's my b. So I'm going to start at -2. So I'm going to go down 2. And my slope is a little different this time. So this time I'm going to go down 3 over 2. Or up 3 over this way too. 3 over 2. And then draw my line. Now if I kept this line going, you should notice what's happening. These two lines are not parallel. There's something called perpendicular. So these are perpendicular lines. So let's write that here. Let's do it in black, just like the other one. So they're perpendicular. Perpendicular lines. And they are going to cross to form, and we haven't really talked about this yet, but this right here where they cross is going to form a 90-degree angle. So it's kind of like they cross perfectly. So what makes them this way? Let's look at the slopes of these lines. They weren't the same like above. Hopefully you're seeing they're flipped. So they're flipped around and one's positive and one's negative. So how we're going to describe that is they're opposite. One's positive, one's negative. Oops. And, so that's our first point. And they are, do you remember the word for flipped? Let's write flipped, but just so you know, another name for that is reciprocals. So they're opposite reciprocals. So, perpendicular lines, the symbol for that, let's do this in red. Perpendicular lines, the symbol for that is that, are opposite reciprocals. Sorry, this is taking so long. Opposite reciprocals. Alright, so what do we need to do an equation of a line? We need the slope, which we had up here, these are our slopes, and we need a point. So think of point slope form. Alright. Alright, so let's do some examples, and this is like what your homework is going to be, and we're only going to do 2 of these today, and then we'll save the rest for Monday to review. You might have just heard my husband. He was screaming upstairs playing his Call of Duty, so sorry about that. But let's solve example number 1. So it's asking, find the equation of a line that is parallel to y equals negative 7 over 3x plus 1 and goes through the point 9, negative 2. So just like we said, we need a point and we need a slope in order to get it into slope-intercept form. So just like your train, we start with point-slope and then we go into slope-intercept. So we have important information here. First thing is we're trying to find a line that's parallel. So hopefully from the front you know that they're going to have the same slopes. If they're parallel, we have the same slopes. So if we look at the equation that they give us, we need to pick out what is the slope in this equation. Well, the slope is always right here next to the x. So that's the slope of this line, but they want to know what is the equation if it's parallel to this line, but it goes through these 2 points. So your job is to write it in point-slope form first, and then write it in slope-intercept. So let's try to put this in point-slope form. So we're going to start with y. So y minus, what's our y? Well, here's our y. This is what the point we want it to go through. So y minus negative 2 equals, the slope of the line is going to be just like this one because this has to be parallel to it. So I'm going to have, let me erase this guy. So we're going to have y minus, my slope is negative 7 over 3, x minus 9, because that's our x. Alright, so that's familiar. We've done that before. But they want us to put it in slope-intercept form, which if you remember is y equals mx plus b. So we need to make it look like that, which we've totally done this before. It should be no big deal. So if you remember, the first thing to do is to distribute. So let's distribute that negative 7 over 3. And don't freak out because it's a fraction. Just type it straight into your calculator. No big deal. These change into 2 plus signs. So we have y plus 2 equals, what do we get here? Negative 7 over 3 x minus, and then hopefully you're doing this in your calculator and not leaving it all to me, but 2 negatives make a positive, so hopefully you saw that, so plus 21. Alright, we're almost there. We're not quite to slope-intercept form yet. We have to get this y by itself. So our next step is to subtract 2 on both sides. But remember, we can't subtract it to the x. We got to subtract it over here. You guys have been good about that. So these are gone. So we get y equals negative 7 over 3 x plus 19. And that's your answer. Alright, we're going to save example 2 for Monday, but let's try one more example down here. Alright, this one wants us to find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to y equals negative 7x plus 7 and goes through point negative 8, negative 3. So let's pick out the important information. So now they want us to find a perpendicular line. I need a slope, so I'm going to pick out the slope from here, which is always right here, right by the x, and they want it to go through these points. So this is my x, and this is my y. Alright, so we always start with point-slope form. So we're going to start with y minus, what's our y, is negative 3, equals, our slope, this time it's perpendicular, so it's not going to be the same slope. It's going to be opposite reciprocal. So you got to flip it. So if we do the opposite reciprocal, our slope of this line is not going to be negative 2. It's going to be positive because that's the opposite of negative. And we have to flip 2 over 1, which would just be 1 over 2. So hopefully, do you see how that is opposite reciprocal? It started as negative 2 over 1, we flipped it, and then this is negative, this is positive. So now this is the slope of our line because it's perpendicular. So I'm going to do 1 over 2 x minus a negative 8. Now it's not in slope-intercept form. I've got to do some work. So I'm going to do the distributive property. Multiply this here. I'm going to change do my double sweep. So if I do this out, I'm going to get y plus 3 equals 1 over 2x plus 4. I'm going to get this y by itself. I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. So y equals 1 over 2x plus 1. Okay, so thanks for bearing with me, guys. I know that was a lot, and I know it was probably really messy and hard to watch, but you've got the gist of it. We're going to do practice on Monday, but please, once you're finished filling this out, I need you to get the worksheet from the sub. You're going to start that. It's really short, so please try it, work on it for the rest of the period, and if you don't finish, get it done for homework. So just remember, parallel lines have the same slope, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. Alright, good luck, guys. See you Monday. Have a good weekend.